Number two is sodium. Everybody goes, oh, sodium, that's bad. No, sodium is not bad. Don't even think that. That's something that somebody thought about many years ago, and it's not a real thing. So sodium is extremely important. You have to have it. You need you need it. Your body needs sodium. So why do you need sodium? Well, sodium is the salt that keeps your keeps your blood volume up. So if you don't have enough sodium, your kidneys are going to get rid of water so that you can keep the balance of sodium in your blood normal. So if your sodium drops down, then your kidneys have to pee out extra water. And then your sodium drops down, you pee out extra water, so you keep that level of sodium right, because that's what allows everything to run in your body. All of your cells have to have this gradient of sodium. Internal in the cell, there's a very tiny amount of sodium, and outside the cell, there's like 25 to 50 times as much sodium outside the cell. Like potassium's just the opposite. And we'll talk about that in a minute.
There we go.
All right.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to the Fix Blood Sugar webinar. We are so glad you guys are here. We have a lot of you hopping on right now, and we want to welcome all of you on Facebook. Do us a favor and hit the like button and share this, because the more people that we can get to see this, the more lives we can help. And there are a lot of people who may be struggling with some of these things, and so we'd love it if you could share this on Facebook. Hello again, we have Dr. Saunders and Joe here today. All of us are here. You know what? Joe just asked me if the chat was working, and I can't remember. Did it work for you last time, Joe?
It worked for me, but nobody else. So
oh no. And we did all the updates.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's like if people need to update their Zoom on their end, or so if anybody can send a chat message, try to do that right now. Send it to everyone. Otherwise, we're going to probably have to use the Q&A part of Zoom for answering questions here. So, well, okay. Welcome to the Fix Blood Sugar webinar, everybody. This is our weekly time together with Dr. Saunders, which is super valuable. I don't know anywhere else in the world where you can hop on with an amazing doctor like Dr. Saunders, who's helped thousands of people reverse type 2 using natural methods. And so we're going to be helping you on the journey. And it all comes from this book of ours, the Diabetes Solution Kit, which you can get at bartonpublishing.com or bartonwebinar.com. The digital version is less than $20. And it's even further on sale if you use the coupon code webinar25, save another 25% off. You can also get that printed workbook copy for an additional $20, which I recommend. So you can have it handy with you wherever you go. Inside the Diabetes Solution Kit, we teach you about the basics, which is in phase 1, reducing your carbohydrate intake to less than 20 grams net grams per day. And really burns off that excess energy and excess sugar in your cells and gets your body working better, burning fat. So a lot of success for people using this. And if that chat's working for you, I'm seeing Dr. Saunders and Leslie in the chat, but not anybody else. So I don't know.
I just changed something.
Ah, nice. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
Sweet. Ira. Yay. Okay, good deal. It's working now. So, all right. That's much better to have people interacting with us. That's for sure. Feels like a real room of people. So,
well, you know, it's interesting. Yeah. We often talk about getting those carbs down and burning off the sugar. I've had 2 cases recently of people just using artificial sweeteners, stevia. One of them was having the xylitol gum, but he was like chewing gum all day long. and he's like this guy that works out and he drinks his green shake every morning, and he's really healthy and doesn't overeat and does intermittent fasting, and he was insulin resistant. And he's like, there's no way I could be insulin resistant. I do intermittent fasting and I don't eat sugar and all that. He was chewing xylitol gum. And so I think that's the only thing that fit in. So, getting off the artificial sweeteners is apparently a good idea. That's like 2 cases in 1 week.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you've talked about that before. So
I think we'll address this right now. This question will come up in every single webinar where someone will ask, but can I have this kind of sugar substitute? And I'll just tell you, Dr. Saunders is going to say no. And we actually, if you go to bartonwebinar.com, there is our top 10 questions. That's on there. And you may find some other things that you've been kind of wondering about as well. So bartonwebinar.com is a really good resource for you guys. Make sure you check that out. But anyway, just thought I'd give you that little tip. He's going to say no. And for the reasons that he was just mentioning, But today we are going to be talking about type 2 and dehydration. And this is a topic that comes up a lot. People often ask about water, how to know if they're drinking enough, what happens if I'm not drinking enough, and how does that all work with type 2? So we asked the good doctor to give us his wisdom today. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. Actually, I'm going to have him do a disclaimer as well.
Okay, so first of all the information that you're getting here is for general audience, general use, and will apply to most people, hopefully, or at least some people, but may not apply to you specifically. So the wise thing to do is to take the information you get and see if it applies to you. And sometimes you may need professional help for that. So like getting the right test to know if this is the right thing for you. So what I'm talking about today, dehydration, is a common problem. This is big. This is on both sides. And it's a really unusual thing that most people don't discuss. So this webinar is something you should really listen carefully to, because it's not something you're going to hear anywhere else as a rule. So dehydration literally means a lack of water. So you can take fruit and you can leave it out or put it in a dehydrator that warms it up and lets the water evaporate off of it. So your apricots they shrivel down into like little prunes. And they're dehydrated, right? That's what that is. Well, people can get dehydrated too. And when they're dehydrated, what happens? Well, they lose water because you have to filter out your toxins all the time. Your kidneys are losing water. Every time you take a breath, you're losing water. And you may not realize it, but you are losing quarts liters of water every day just breathing, and that water is coming out. So if you take something cold and you see it fog up, that's just water, right? That's coming out of your body. You need to replace all that water. So the water you're breathing, the water you're peeing out, that all needs to be replaced at a minimum. You also may need a little more water so that everything functions well. So getting enough water, I've had a ton of people ask me, well, what's enough? How do I know I'm getting enough? Well, guess what? The Lord has provided us with the easiest thing in the world to know if we're dehydrated. If you're thirsty, if you get thirsty, then you're probably dehydrated. However, gosh, just like everything else, it's not that simple, because there are 3 different kinds of dehydration. I'll bet you didn't know that. You go, wait a minute, how many types of water are there? 1 type of water, but dehydration is a lack of water. So you have a lack of water. That's one reason. If you're just not drinking water, you will get dehydrated. People ask, how long can you live without water? Well, there is stories of people who have lived for a couple of weeks in the desert without water. And they managed to make it to civilization and get water, and they're okay. So it depends. It depends on what your hydration status is and how much you're sweating and all that other stuff. So, I forgot to tell you about the sweating. Yeah, how many liters of water you sweat out every day, even on a cold day. You're always sweating. So these are losses of water. So it's easy to get dehydrated, and how long you can go depends on how much you're peeing out, how much you're sweating out, and how much you're breathing out. So when you have type 2, very often what happens is you get glucose or sugar coming out in the urine. And when sugar comes out in the urine, then your water goes out with it. There's actually a medication, Jardiance, that does that, that actually causes that to happen. So you lose more water because your kidneys, it won't allow the kidneys to reabsorb the sugar. So the sugar goes out in the urine and water goes with it. Because water it has to be dissolved in something, and that's just the way the body works. So we've talked about one type of dehydration, that is a lack of water, and all the reasons why that happens, because you're sweating too much, because you're breathing too much, well, not breathing out more, or you're urinating a lot. So you can get dehydrated with diabetes because you're peeing out extra urine. So that's one. Number 2 is sodium. Everybody goes, oh, sodium, that's bad. No, sodium is not bad. Don't even think that. That's something that somebody thought about many years ago, and it's not a real thing. So sodium is extremely important. You have to have it. You need it. Your body needs sodium. So why do you need sodium? Well, sodium is the salt that keeps your blood volume up. So if you don't have enough sodium, your kidneys are going to get rid of water so that you can keep the balance of sodium in your blood normal. So if your sodium drops down, then your kidneys have to pee out extra water. And then your sodium drops down, you pee out extra water, so you keep that level of sodium right, because that's what allows everything to run in your body. All of your cells have to have this gradient of sodium. Internal in the cell, there's a very tiny amount of sodium, and outside the cell, there's like 25 to 50 times as much sodium outside the cell. Like potassium's just the opposite. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So as your sodium's dropping down, then your kidneys go, oh, we got to get rid of some water so that we have enough sodium. And so you can get dehydrated by peeing out a lot of extra water because you don't have enough sodium. So some people, here's what happens. So they drink a lot of water, and they drink more water, and they're peeing like crazy. And every time you pee, you're losing some sodium. So they're losing sodium. And then they're on a low sodium diet. So they're not eating any. They don't put salt on anything. So and so they don't get sodium. So now their sodium is dropping low because they're drinking a lot of water, and it's going lower, and the kidneys are getting rid of extra water. And so I have people who come to me and say, I can't even sleep at night. I'm getting up 5 times at night to pee. So we check their urine and their blood and everything, and it turns out that it's not from diabetes. It's not from getting rid of extra sugar or glucose. The problem is that they have low sodium. And so every time they drink water, the kidneys just have to get rid of all that water. And then they're losing more sodium. So the answer to this dilemma is to not drink too much water. And everybody's like, oh, I was always told that you can't drink too much water, that's impossible. But I'm telling you now, that's how you drink too much water, is you deplete the sodium, because every time you pee out water, you get rid of some sodium too. And so it's not impossible to drink too much water. You can drink too much water. And what happens? It makes you dehydrated. It's kind of ironic, right? You drink more water, you get more dehydrated. Let's give an example of that. If you have too much sodium, then you have to have enough water to get rid of it. So the opposite things happen. So you can drink not enough water and have the same problem, where you have your sodium's too high, but you don't have enough water for the kidney to get rid of that. That's why people like stranded on a boat, and with no fresh water. And what is the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner says, water, water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Because you can't drink seawater, there's too much salt in it, and you'll end up with high salt, and so you have dehydration of your salt content. So that sodium problem, I have several patients who've done this. One came into my office, and she was bumping against the walls, and she looked drunk. She was slurring her words and could hardly talk. And I said, and this is someone who drank a lot of alcohol. And I said, "Oh, you've been drinking again?" "No, I haven't had any alcohol, I swear." And she was slurring her words and telling me she hadn't had any alcohol. I'm like, yeah, right. But she was like really bumping against walls. So I called 911. And she got sent to the hospital. So what happened was she stopped drinking alcohol. She was absolutely truthful. She was not drinking alcohol. Instead of drinking alcohol, she was carrying water with her and drinking like whole bottles of water. Every time she wanted alcohol, she would just drink water and fill her belly up with water. And she had so much to drink, she depleted her sodium down low enough that her brain couldn't work anymore. And she was pretty close to dying from water intoxication. Okay, so dehydration from a lack of sodium is called water intoxication, because you have a lot of water and not enough sodium. And so if you don't have enough sodium to run your body, things just won't work, especially your nervous system. Okay, so that's dehydration number 2. Now, dehydration number 3 is potassium depletion. So if you're depleted in potassium, you have intracellular dehydration. Potassium keeps the cells full of water. So if your cells don't have enough potassium, in order to keep the right level so that everything functions right, the water gets taken out so that there's enough concentration. So it's the right concentration of potassium. So what happens is those cells shrink down and they look like raisins. So if you're intracellular dehydrated, that means inside of your cells there's not enough water to keep those nice plump cells. Their intracellular dehydration is all these raisin cells, right? So your whole body is dehydrated, but your blood volume is normal. And that's the weird thing about it. You don't have the problem of you stand up and get dizziness. You get that from dehydration, right? But not from intracellular dehydration. But what starts happening is the cells don't work very well. So they try to keep the volume up so that the cells can function properly, but they stop functioning, especially the nervous system. And what happens here is you get super thirsty, because in the brain, the brain is saying like, I need water, because all the cells are like shrinking down because there's not enough water volume to keep them up. So this dehydration of intracellular dehydration makes you so thirsty. So what happens? You drink more water. And what happens when you drink more water? Well, it doesn't work because there's not enough potassium. What you need for this is potassium. but you drink water. And guess what? You're going to lose a little bit of potassium every time you drink water too. So people are just pounding the water. They're just drinking like crazy, but they can't. They're always thirsty, and the thirst never goes away. That's usually from potassium dehydration. So you can have intracellular dehydration from low potassium. You can have extracellular or blood dehydration from low sodium, or you can have total body dehydration just from a lack of water, which gives you everything. It gives you low, the potassium is going to be excreted, the sodium is being excreted, and your volume is going to decrease generally. So that's why you can drink too much water, and so I don't recommend it. So then the bottom line is, how much do you drink? Well, consider about 16 to 32 ounces a day is about right. But if you're getting a lot of your water from fruit and vegetables, then you're not going to need to drink as much, right? So some people, like fruitarians, will only get their water from fruit, and they don't drink any water at all. They're eating like, if you eat a quart of watermelon, guess what? That's a quart of water, right? So you're actually getting enough from the food you're eating. So looking at that generally, you may need more if you're sweating a lot. So if you're going out, working out, it's hot outside, it's really humid, you're in, I don't know, Florida, and you sweat like crazy, then you're going to have to drink more water to replace that. But guess what else you're sweating out? You're sweating out potassium and you're sweating out sodium. So you need to replace those as well. And that comes from fruit and vegetables. So if you're getting fruit and vegetables, you're getting potassium. And sodium just comes from salt. And, don't be afraid of salt. It's pretty rare to have somebody who's salt sensitive that causes high blood pressure from salt. And I just don't agree with the dictum that everyone should avoid salt because very few people have salt sensitive hypertension. So that's dehydration.
Is that why dogs like to lick you after you're sweating? Because they need salt.
Yeah. Horses too. It's really funny. The horses will lick you. They like the salt on your skin too.
Yeah. So you said 16 to 32 ounces a day of water is really all you need, which kind of flies in the face of the 8 glasses a day.
I know.
Well,
So
right.
somebody said that once, and everybody just took up the banner of 8 glasses a day. And nobody actually did any research until they finally did research and said, oh, I guess people really don't need that much.
Yeah. Well,
and I suppose it depends on your diet too. If you're someone who's drinking a lot of soda all day, you may need more water, or, you know what I mean? Or whatever foods you're eating probably impact how much water you probably need. But if you have a healthy diet, you may not need much.
Well, that's one of the ideas behind the 8 glasses of water a day is people who are eating a lot of salt in their diet need to deplete the salt out. So you drink a lot of water to let your salt go. But you know what? If you have a good, healthy diet and you're getting enough salt, enough sodium, enough potassium, then you really don't need that much water.
So if you're not thirsty, you're pretty much not dehydrated is what you're saying at the beginning.
Ideally, assuming your hypothalamus is working properly, yes, that would be the case.
All right. I've seen a lot more companies coming out with different electrolytes and minerals that you can add to your water, like sodium and magnesium, potassium. I don't know if there's one more, calcium maybe.
Calcium,
yeah. Do you recommend supplementing like that, or just getting it through your food, or both?
Ideally, get it through your food. That's ideal. So if you look at potassium, for example, in beans, so beans are 10 to 1 potassium to sodium. They're pretty good source of potassium. But then when you salt the beans, and if you buy like a can of baked beans that have spices in them, they're generally going to have a lot of salt, and it reverses, and you have a lot more sodium than potassium. And people think that they have to eat bananas to get potassium, but bananas are a good source ounce for ounce. But everything, apples, oranges, all your fruits, celery, carrots, they all have potassium in them. So it's hard to not get enough potassium if you're eating fruit and vegetables.
So if you have too much sodium, what does your body start to do? Does it like retain water and bloat and things like that?
Yeah, it depends on the kidneys. Some people retain water and get bloated from the extra sodium. But most people, if the kidneys are functioning normally, the extra sodium will be excreted in the urine, and that would be a reason for drinking more water to allow that to happen normally.
All right, we got about a half an hour left here, and we've got a lot of good questions that have come in. Leslie, let's get rolling. And if you're watching this, feel free to enter your questions in the Q&A. We try to keep them related to diabetes for the most part, if we can. However, if it's something that you really want to know and you think others want to know as well, go ahead and put it in there, and we'll probably get to that as well. So, all right.
Awesome. Here's a good note from Greg. He says, I was once told, take your weight in pounds, half it, and drink that many ounces of water per day. I did this and I ended up with sodium deficiency. The doctor then told me, let your thirst be your guide. Exactly what you said.
Exactly. Thank you.
I am told that a lot as well. So very interesting. Good question here. How much sodium is allowed daily?
Oh, yeah. If you're going to count, it's really hard to count sodium because you don't know what's in things. But some people, they keep a log of everything they eat, and the programs will tell you exactly how much sodium you're eating in a day. So generally around 4 grams, but just to let you know that a normal kidney can handle 40 grams of salt a day. So you could live on salt pork every day, all day long, and have nothing else and not get too much sodium. In other words, that more than your kidneys can handle, as long as you're getting enough water to be able to excrete that much sodium. So yeah, but around 4 grams a day is a good amount.
I was looking at, I've got some mixed nuts here that I like to snack on. Carb. And these are salted with sea salt. And I don't know why anybody would eat nuts without salt. I got to be honest. Like, come on, get the salt. But then I looked at the sodium, and it's only 95 milligrams per serving, which is 4% of the daily value, according to this. So,
yeah, what's the daily value? What do they recommend?
So I think 2,500 milligrams, or 2,500 milligrams, roughly 2,400, 2.5 grams.
Yeah. So yeah, but 4,000 is a good round number for
So I mean, I think some people buy the unsalted nuts thinking, well, like, I don't want the sodium, but like, no, add some salt to your salted nuts. That's what it's coming down to.
All right. Here's a good question from Angela. Do you need more water if you exercise 3 times a week?
Well, it depends. The exercise by itself may not be enough to require extra water. But if you're sweating a lot, you're going to need extra water. So I like what the doctor told, I forgot his name now. Greg, let your thirst be your guide. That's actually a decent way to do it. That is a healthy way to do it.
Okay. Carol's wondering if drinking alcohol on a regular basis will cause dehydration.
Oh, good point. Yes, it can. Yes, it can. If you're not getting enough water in other ways, alcohol can cause you to urinate more, like a diuretic. And so, yes, it can. It's kind of like coffee. Somebody's probably going to ask about coffee, because coffee is actually a diuretic. And you can't count coffee. If you have a 16 ounces of coffee, you can't count that as 16 ounces of fluid, because generally you're going to lose about as much fluid as you take in when you're drinking coffee, because it is a diuretic.
Hey, real quick, can you explain what is a diuretic and how does that work?
Okay, a diuretic is anything that makes you pee. So if you urinate, if you put out more water, a diuretic is something that tells the kidneys to make more urine. And so there's prescription diuretics like Lasix, and probably a lot of you who have type 2 have been on various diuretics, especially hydrochlorothiazide or Lasix, furosemide. But there's a lot of other things. So for example, in our kidney stone program for Barton Publishing, we use natural diuretics and drinking a whole bunch of water to flush out kidney stones. And one of those is asparagus. Asparagus happens to be a natural diuretic. And that just makes you urinate more.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Andy said, should you drink some extra water prior to having kidney tests, GFR, creatinine, to get a more accurate GFR reading?
Okay, yeah, the GFR should be the same either way, but it's actually not. If you drink more water and you're diluting your creatinine more, then your GFR will tend to be higher, which is good. You want it to be over 60. And so, yes, you could do that. It's not supposed to, but that's an estimate. The estimated GFR they base on the creatinine. So, and if you drink more water, you will tend to lose more creatinine more easily.
Okay. Natalia says, can you reverse diabetic retinopathy?
Oh, good question. Yes, but reverse is a difficult word to use. Stop is an easy thing. Reverse, we don't know. So it depends. In some cases, the retina isn't functioning very well because it's like asleep, but not dead. But if the cells are dead, the rule is they probably won't come back. Now, there are stem cells. There are amazing things that are in the works for possibly restoring vision for this kind of thing, glaucoma and diabetic retinopathy. But for everyone out there, blood sugar control is very important. But the most important thing, your insulin levels have to be low. Because it's the insulin, remember, that blocks, that stops the glucose transport proteins from getting sugar into those nerve cells that allow the nervous system to work, including the eyes.
Okay, Douglas said, I fell off the wagon, I believe came back from vacation, and blood sugar was at 540, now down to 290. How serious is this spike? Okay.
It's not serious. Don't even worry about it. Those kind of things aren't even an issue. The reality of those spikes are they're just spikes. A speed bump on the road to recovery, right? So don't worry about that. You know, people worry a lot. Oh no, my blood sugar was 900. And it's really not that much of an issue. The key is to bring it down. So now you're in the 200s. Okay, that's a lot better, and you still have a ways to go.
Okay. Daryl said, I got below 100, lowest 93, but I cannot maintain that level even though I'm taking in about 5 grams of carbs.
Wow. 5 grams of carbs. Okay. So what you need to know then, so for any of you out there who are having that kind of a problem where the blood sugar just is not getting below 100, then look at your insulin levels and look to see that your pancreas is making enough insulin, or you may have way too much insulin, or there may be some insulin resistance. And look at other things in your diet. 5 grams of carbs, okay, fine, but what if you're like chewing gum with xylitol in it that has artificial sweeteners, things that you don't think about because it's non-caloric, right? But all day long with that sweet taste is like releasing insulin, releasing insulin, releasing insulin. So it's keeping you or making you insulin resistant. So there are other things to look at outside of that. And some people will have to look at their fat content, because fat makes you resistant to insulin. And so you may have to decrease your fat to get that down to normal. So looking at those outside things.
Okay. We have some fun things that were posted in the chat. As we were talking about sugar, Joe said, if it's sweet, retreat. Actually, no, I think Greg said that. Sweet, retreat. Yeah. And let's see, someone else said something. Oh, Greg also had mentioned a good rule of thumb is if you have gold urine, you need to drink more. Clear urine, drink no more. Yellow, just right.
Okay, good.
Let's see here. Okay, Cam says, I have sarcopenia and pre-diabetic. What can I do now?
Okay, all right. Sarcopenia means you don't have enough muscles. And it's not just that you have, small muscles. It's that, like, they biopsy the muscles and you don't have enough cells, like your muscle cells. So, someone who's like a bodybuilder, they're, enlarging their muscle fibers and making more. Sarcopenia is where you have very few of them. And so it's a weakness problem, and it's a problem with exercising. So the two things that people can do with sarcopenia and diabetes is, you're not going to be able to use enough energy exercising. So what you do is you take in very small amounts of carbohydrates. I think, I don't know all of your test scores, but just let me give you an idea and think out loud here. If I had a patient in my office right here with that kind of a problem, I would say start on phase 1 and get enough protein and use protein like meat protein, meat, fish, eggs, and cheese proteins. And the reason for that is because they have branched chain amino acids that stimulate the mTOR that causes you to start making more muscle mass. And then exercise. So if you are doing phase 1 with a lot of protein and a little bit of fat, a little bit of carbs, 20 gram or less carbs, and then more protein, and then working out, and then no food after 6, and eat breakfast, have like 3 eggs for breakfast. Okay, why? Because that not eating at night allows you to go into what's called anabolic metabolism. And anabolic means you're building or rebuilding, and you can build muscle. But another thing that's going to really help is another anabolic hormone called mTOR. And that mTOR stimulates the muscles if you're eating protein to be able to put on muscle mass. So I think that would be the best thing to do.
Okay, and if you're wondering what is phase 1, that's in the diabetes solution kit. Let's see here. I think Joe showed it at the beginning, but here's mine. And if you go to Barton webinar, you will find more information about that. But when we talk about the program, or as we mentioned things about the kit, this is what we're talking about. Edward had asked, how do we find the root cause of our diabetes?
That's a great question, and everybody should know that, and every doctor should know that. Okay, so wow. Okay, the root cause, the simplest way is to start off with just getting the basics. So you want glucose level, and then hemoglobin A1C, and insulin level, and a C peptide, and that's just C-peptide. The C peptide is from the pancreas, and it's telling you more of an overall how much insulin your pancreas is able to put out. And it's like usually 0.5 to 1.5, somewhere in there, or up to 2, somewhere in that range. And so if you do that, then you can look at why, the basics of why your diabetes is. So some people will have very low insulin and high blood sugar, and that's a problem. That means your pancreas is not making insulin. Now you have to do all the other tests and say, why isn't your pancreas making insulin? So then you're doing the antibody tests, the islet cell antibodies, and autoimmune problems, looking for that kind of thing. But to start off with, the simple ones, do glucose, hemoglobin A1C, insulin, and C-peptide. And that will tell you your pancreas function to get you started on, is this type 1 or type 2? Is my pancreas making insulin or not? Or am I way over producing insulin? I had somebody with 160 insulin, and normally is 5, right? 5, 6, 10. 10 is high. This person was like, 15 times higher than normal. So that would be the first thing to look at.
And if you want a list of some of those tests, feel free to email me and I will get those to you. It's leslie@bartonpublishing.com. I will put that in the chat as well. Debbie said 3 weeks ago, I'd asked Dr. Saunders about sabotaging on my diet. Dr. Saunders was saying that the 250-pound woman who was struggling with the same thing couldn't give an answer to why they were on the diet and not succeeding. I was listening to something the other day that had the answer to the question, and we forget what the final reward feels like when we get healthy. We forget how good health feels, and we need to remember that goal. So that was a good note, just as a reminder. Sometimes we try to get healthy, but we forget why we're doing it and how good being healthy actually feels. And those are really good motivating things to keep you moving forward on your journey. So thank you, Debbie, for that note.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, very good. Okay, Andy's wondering if it's okay to take an electrolyte tablet daily as a rehydration therapy if your A1C reading is 6.5.
A1C of 6.5 is like right on the border of between pre-diabetes and diabetes, and so it's for someone who has diabetes, that's a decent number. Of course, you want to get it down into the 5. So the electrolyte tablet, though, since you don't really have a lot of high blood sugar, you're probably not urinating frequently, a lot of glucose, so you're not excreting a bunch of sodium, sodium and potassium, causing that problem. So I suspect that the electrolyte tablet wouldn't be necessary. I don't think that would be necessary. I think you could get it in your food, and especially if in phase 1 they have all those free foods like the broccoli and lettuce and spinach and asparagus, all those free foods. Man, that's got a lot of potassium. You can get enough in your food. And then, of course, sodium, just put some salt on it. And yeah.
Donna's asking, what about electrolytes when a person is fasting?
Yeah. Okay. So remember, like when you're fasting, your body is cleansing, is using up everything that it normally uses. And so, yes, some people drink electrolytes. In fact, I've had a lot of people, when they're doing more long-term fasts, like 2 weeks or a month, they'll drink broth. Why broth? Well, broth has potassium and calcium and magnesium and sodium. It's got everything in it, electrolytes. So they can still function normally doing a long-term fast with broth, and that works. So yes, you can do that, but you don't have to. Actually, the body can function pretty well and is made to be able to adjust to what the need is. So if you're only drinking water, then your kidneys will hold on to your sodium and potassium. And yes, you may get a little dehydrated. And I actually had that once when I was fasting. After a few days, I passed out. I got up out of bed and then fell right back, woke up on the floor. Anyway, it happens. So yeah, it does change your hydration status to fast. Even drinking water.
Okay. Rich says, do swollen ankles show too much sodium in the body?
Oh, that's possible. There's just so many reasons why you could have swollen ankles, but sometimes if the kidneys are holding on to sodium, which like when Joe brought up that people get bloated when they get too much sodium, yeah, the swollen ankles can do that too. But there's other reasons. Swollen ankles are, if your heart isn't working right, if your liver's not working right, if your kidneys aren't working right, if your veins aren't getting the blood back to your heart easily, then they'll pool. The blood will pool in the legs and cause extra pressure and swelling. So there's so many reasons why you could have swollen ankles that, but having said that, you could get dehydrated. Okay, so think about this. What does the doctor give you when you have swollen ankles? A diuretic. Well, what does a diuretic do? Well, it makes you pee out extra water. What if you just didn't drink water? Oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, you could just not drink water and be dehydrated, or you could take a diuretic and be dehydrated. Either way, you're dehydrated to cause that water to be sucked back into your arteries and get used again instead of just pooling in your legs. So being dehydrated is the way the way doctors handle it, not the way you should handle it.
Interesting. Kenneth would like to know how to keep my leg from having the pins and needle effect. What foods are safe and what are not?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so here's the problem. The pins and needle effect is neuropathy. It means the nerves aren't getting enough nutrition. Now, oxygen and or whatever nutrition they need. It could be B vitamins. It could be other things. So, and it's generally, if it's on both sides, it's almost always a blood flow issue, and especially in type 2. So how do you get the nerves back? Well, we have something called Nervala that has a benfotiamine and alpha lipoic acid, which many people who are listening now even may tell you that their pins and needles or numbness went away being on that supplement, but that's not enough. So yes, I would recommend Nervala, but also the phase 1 of the program gets your insulin resistance down, because if the insulin is down low, then the blood vessels will work better, the kidneys will work better, you'll detox better, and then the nerves will work better. So doing the program, getting the kit, doing the program is the best way to handle the pins and needles.
Awesome. And we did have a couple of messages about the loss of muscle mass, how to get it back, etc. And I think that may be a webinar topic that we should probably talk about.
Yeah, well, everything I talked about, that the mTOR, the eating the protein, the 610 reset, all of those, that's what
Those are
that's
the
about,
answers.
is the anabolic metabolism. That's what you need, is to be anabolic.
All right, this is good stuff. This is a good question from Ira. Does drinking water help with sugar control? I have to tell you that I went a couple weeks drinking tons of Diet Coke and little water. My blood sugar went scary high.
Thank you for that. Remember, we started off, Joe was talking about doing the program, and I said, I added in that the guy that was eating the chewing gum all day long that had no sugar in it. It was the xylitol gum. Well, here you go. It's an issue, right? Diet Coke, right? There's no calories in it all, zero. And yet the blood sugar is just going crazy because it makes you so insulin resistant. So yeah, that's great. Yes, it's not the water that lowers your blood sugar, though, just so that you understand. It's the Diet Coke that makes it go up because you get so insulin resistant.
Barbara says, I have a friend who drinks lemon in her water. How can this help someone with type 2 who is diet controlled?
The idea of lemon in the water is partly for flavor, partly to add some organic acids. And I know of several programs that use that, and it's great, it's fine, but it's not a treatment for diabetes. In other words, it's not something you would have to worry about. The real issue is the excessive calories. So the idea of detoxing is to actually remove. So you don't detox by adding things in. So it's okay to put lemon in your water, but do the program. That's what works.
Daryl's asking, how does night sweat play into dehydration?
Okay. So night sweat. Well, I hope it's night sweats from hormones and not night sweats from leukemia or something like that. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma causes night sweats too. So it depends on why you're getting night sweats. It depends on how much, but just think of it this way. It's really simple. However much your body's excreting out, whether you're breathing it out or sweating it out or peeing it out, that all has to be replaced. And when you're sweating a lot, you have to remember that you're losing a lot of sodium and potassium too. So yeah, all of that.
Okay, Iris says, I have a Freestyle Libre 14. What should my average glucose be to be safe? I am a type 2 diabetic.
Oh, okay. That's great. Yeah, those, what he's talking about is called the CGM, continuous glucose monitor. And that you can get, like, even on your phone. They also have a little unit. But you can look at your graph of where your blood sugar is all the time. And this is really cool graph. And then they give you an average. What's your average blood sugar? Just remember that those CGMs, they get you close, but they're not that accurate. So if I quote you a number that says, you should be this, that's not like that. That's kind of like an idea more than an actual number, right? So it should be right around 100 on average. That's where you want your average to be.
A couple different questions about why my numbers are higher in the morning versus at night. And Juliet, her question is specific about that. It's she says, when I don't eat after 6 p.m., my sugar is higher in the morning. But when I have a small snack at 9 p.m., my sugars are good in the morning. What should I do?
Okay, so what you should do is don't eat the snack at 9 p.m. Okay, because that morning sugar, the reason that it goes high is because it drops lower earlier on. So in the evening or in the early morning when you're asleep, the blood sugar starts dropping low. And when it starts getting too low and your insulin gets low, then your pancreas releases glucagon, and glucagon tells your liver, make more sugar. So then you make a bunch of sugar, and then it goes up. And so you test in the morning and go, oh my gosh, it's high and I didn't eat anything. It's because you're supposed to do that. That's normal. That's what your liver's supposed to do. And that's what your pancreas is supposed to do. And that's what keeps your insulin down. So actually it's better to not eat at 6 and have higher blood sugars in the morning. I know that sounds weird, but it's better to do that.
And I hope that that answers your question too, Patricia. Again, if you go to bartonwebinar.com, there's a list of our top 10 questions you will find, and their videos, they're Dr. Saunders answering the questions. So a bunch of these questions can be found there as well. Okay. Oh, we're running out of time. I got to hurry up. Okay. Greg says, I do not have a continuous glucose monitor, nor take a blood sugar reading, but I do have my A1C monitored quarterly. Is this a good enough gauge of progress away from pre-diabetes?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to check your blood sugar every day or have a CGM. Those are fun. They're fun toys to have. But really, if you just monitor hemoglobin A1C once a quarter, that's a decent thing to do. So, because 3 months down the road, you measure your hemoglobin A1C, and it's, instead of 7.5, it's 7.2. Woohoo! You're on the track. You're doing the right thing because your average blood sugar has dropped down. So yeah, that's a decent way to do it. Not a problem at all.
Okay. Oh my gosh, there's so many questions that are so good, you guys. What causes leg cramps and leg spasms?
Okay, spasms, cramps, the general is electrolyte imbalances or changes in electrolytes. And the most common that causes that are potassium and magnesium. It's very common in our society to have a lack of magnesium, because all of the things that contain magnesium are not staple foods in our diet. In other words, we're not getting a lot of magnesium every day from our food because we don't eat nuts and seeds and whole grains and greens. Anything green is green because of magnesium. So that would be the most common. Potassium, again, second most common. And drinking too much water, you can deplete both of those too. So if you're borderline and then you drink extra water, it could put you over the edge and you start getting cramps. And then the other one is calcium, which is a little unusual, but it's very common for Americans to have low vitamin D and not absorb very much calcium. So they have low calcium and they end up with leg cramps as well. So sodium, potassium, all the electrolytes, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium. These two oppose each other, and then the other two oppose each other. And so having a balance is what keeps you from getting cramps.
Okay. One more question. Let's see. Our friend Dell said, I went to the dentist yesterday and they basically gave me a referral to a surgeon because I ended up with an abscess on one of my teeth. Extremely painful. When I accidentally chew on that side of my mouth, I was doing great, but my blood sugar has been in the low 200s. I asked my GP that could have been the reason for my blood sugar escalating, and he said yes. I know I'm on antibiotics and the blood sugar is really out of control now. He suggested I go back on metformin until it gets back under control. Should I?
Yeah, metformin would be fine. Okay. Yes, the answer to the question is yes, that would be a fine idea. That's not bad at all. But yeah, the abscesses can definitely make your blood sugar go up. Any stressors can make your blood sugar go up. So any illness, if you get a cold or coronavirus or anything, it can make the blood sugar go up. But yes, and it would be okay to use metformin during the time that you're sick to keep the blood sugar, at least a moderate control.
Okay. And I think Joe wants to quick show us something before you head out.
Dr. Saunders, you can stick around if you want. I was just going to do a screen share quick. Telling people about home cures that work. We've tossed around the idea. Feel free to head out if you need to, Saunders. But every month, Dr. Saunders writes an article on a different health topic and not necessarily related to diabetes. We are tossing around the idea of doing an extra webinar per month that would talk about all of the research that Dr. Saunders has done. And so this past month we had, let's see, a broken heart and aches and pains, tinnitus, weight loss. And July was low dose naltrexone. And then we had the lymph system. Let's see here. Looks like GERD, acid reflux, allergy pains. Let's see, glaucoma, eye health. February, that's a new one. I think we made a typo there. But AMPK and metabolism, immune function. So my question for you is, would you be interested in this webinar, joining us? And give us your thoughts on that. Would you join us? How interested would you be? And if you're curious what this is, homecuresthatwork.com. It's our membership site where Dr. Saunders and a few other of our health writers have been writing articles each month since January 2009, which is very impressive. That's 13 years now, and just a wealth of information. It's $99 a year to subscribe to these, so you have access to all of the articles and archives. It's basically like a treasury, like a health library for all sorts of different health issues that Dr. Saunders, like, here's what Dr. Saunders recommends for, anything, you name it. And you can come in here and search different topics. And so let's type in dehydration, since that was the topic of the day. 7 home remedies for chronic dehydration from my mom, who's no longer with us. So you can see that's been a while since that, but different things here: skin care, exercise, immune system, diabetes in the bedroom, constipation, sugar cravings. So there's just like a wealth of information here. Put some messages in the chat if this is interesting to you. So
what's really cool about that home cures that work is you get you can look through all the old articles, and so sometimes I've done that when I have a patient in that has an issue. I go, I think I wrote an article on that like 10 years ago. So then I'll search it up and print it out and give it to them, and I'll read it, because after years of not reading, I read it and I go, wow, that was pretty good. That's a good article,
Yeah.
I'm kind of impressed with my work, if I do say so myself.
Yeah. Well, and I'm impressed at like how long your answers like are still relevant today. So the research you do, just for the most part doesn't really change. Like the stuff you find, like it worked 10 years ago, it works today, and you're finding new stuff all the time as well. Yeah.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I have to head out too, actually. We have our first day of school chapel, and it starts in 10 minutes, so I need to head out.
You better go. All right.
Bye,
We'll
guys.
be back next week. Thanks, everybody.
Are you leaving, Joe, or are you staying on?
I'm leaving. I'm out of here.
All right. Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.